So I want to turn this over for our Eastside Rail summary to Al Runte.
Actually, it was 35% of the vote. On a budget of $18,000, Mayor Nichols had $500,000. So you get the rest of the picture. But as Tony said today, I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Eastside Rail Line. And for our guests from outside of the state, the Eastside Rail Line is a 42-mile section of track that runs from roughly Snohomish, Washington, south to Renton, Tukwila, or north, whichever way you happen to want to go. And it joins up with the main line in the south, and it joins up with the high line in the north, and it's a very, very critical piece of track. It's about 100 years old. It's not the straightest track. It's not the kind of track that you would see on a main line, but it's critical to the future of Washington State. Well, along about a few months ago, the King County Executive Ron Sims got this brilliant idea. Actually, he got it about 2 or 3 years ago, and here was his brilliant idea. He would turn the Eastside Rail Line into a trail, as he says, the granddaddy of all trails. The Port of Seattle would buy the Eastside Rail Line and give it to the county. In exchange, the county would give the Port of Seattle Boeing Field, or King County International Airport. So if you're starting to get a little bit confused, you can understand why we were getting a little bit confused. Here was the question that we posed to the fathers and mothers of our government. Why are we tearing up 42 miles of railroad in the year of our Lord 2007? So that we can have all these machinated deals going back and forth, which when you look behind the curtain, you begin to realize that something pretty stinky is afoot. Why are we doing this? Well, here's what they said. They said, well, it'll be a wonderful trail. We'll now have a 175-mile trail system in King, Snohomish, and Pierce counties. Just think of all the people who will commute to work by bicycle. And yes, bicycles. Bicycles in the year of our Lord 2007. In the rain. We just love riding our bicycles in the rain. Ice and snow, we go. Got the little peak carrier there in the back, away we go. Well, how many bicyclists? Oh, at least 2,500 a day, the King County Executive said. King County Executive Ron Sims. Just remember that the next time the election is held in your wonderful and fair county. Let's look at this issue and came to a very important conclusion. First of all, we needed to be called Board Washington, not the Washington Association of Rail Passengers. That was one of the important changes. And secondly, we had to get tough. We had to stop being these people who simply go to meetings year after year after year to hear the same presentations year after year after year. Why do I feel like Yogi Berra today? This is deja vu all over again. Whether it was a $40 million Amtrak budget or a $700 million Amtrak budget or whatever Amtrak budget it was never enough money, and the fight is always the same. And why is it always the same? Because this country has gone from railroads that value Main Street to railroads that value Wall Street. They don't care about you, they don't care about me. Every once in a while they say they do. Every once in a while they throw us a crumb like the King Street Station restoration and say, look at us, we're doing something good, but the bottom line is that they don't care. And it is time that we woke up because, ladies and gentlemen, I turned 60 this year. I turned 60, and I started this fight with the Phoebe Snow back in 1966. I was 19 years old. By the time that Ron Sims restores the Eastside Rail Line back to rail, which he says he will do when we really need it, you and I will all be traveling back and forth on that railroad in caskets. And that is the reality here. And look around this room and see how many young people we've got. We've got a fine young man right here that works for the National Association of Rail Passengers, but most of us in this room are over 50 and well into our 60s and 70s, and we've been in this battle for 40 years. And why do we want to keep losing? So all aboard Washington said, we're not going to lose this, we're not going to let this happen. And we started to fight. And we started to fight the way the big dogs fight, which is to say, we started to go public. I wrote an op-ed for the Seattle Times. Unbeknownst to me, Alec Fiskin of the Port of Seattle had written one the same day. That got published. Craig Thorpe wrote an op-ed.
Lloyd Flem fed me some very good ideas and information, pointed out most of all, gee, back in the 1980s you wanted to tear out Stampede Pass, and now you want us to help you restore it. What's wrong with this picture? You made a big mistake then. Could you possibly, as a railroad and as a county, be making a mistake now? So we started to get the ball rolling, and the press has been, well, let's say, sitting on the fence. There was an editorial a couple of weeks ago in the PI that said, rails to trails looks better all the time. I wrote to the editors and I said, imagine Albuquerque, New Mexico, $140 million they're going to restore railroad service to Santa Fe in the year of our Lord 2008, no less. You want to send a reporter or two down there to Albuquerque and see how those people are so out of their minds. Don't they get it? If they tore up this railroad now and spend $12 billion on a railroad that somebody promises them in 2024, Sound Transit Phase 2, why, by golly, you know, they could just be in their caskets and have this wonderful railroad sometime in the future, and they could have this bicycle trail today. That kind of tough talk is not the kind of talk that has come out of the rail community or out of the environmental community, which I also bridge my time with. But I started to think like David Brower, who had two big battles in the 1960s with the fledgling Sierra Club. And one of them was the battle for the Grand Canyon with the Bureau of Reclamation. He had 25,000 members, 501c3 status, that was all wonderful. But he was losing. He started buying one-page ads in the New York Times, and the most famous of all, the answer to the Bureau of Reclamation's dictum that we could have motorboating in the Grand Canyon. He answered the Bureau of Reclamation, should we also flood the Sistine Chapel so tourists can get near the ceiling? Right? The Sierra Club jumped up 75,000 members overnight, and the rest is history. There's 700,000 members today, young, old, weak, strong. They're a powerhouse, and that's what we have to do. So here's what we've been doing. We've just been fighting the battle of the minds. We have nothing to trade. We have no power. All we are is a 501c3 organization. All we have is the power of public opinion. And we've been going after it with a vengeance. Now, at the same time, Lloyd Flem has been doing it as the good cop. I've been the bad cop. Lloyd is the good cop. He's working in the legislature, and he's working hard. And ladies and gentlemen, you don't know what a great voice you have in Olympia until you've watched Lloyd Flem work for just a couple of hours on the campus of the Washington State Legislature. I had to see it. I had to see it to appreciate it. I've been kind of the bad cop, the aria, as Lloyd calls it. I went into the House a couple of weeks ago and I said, ladies and gentlemen, you're right, there's no wizard behind this curtain. This is lose, 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 all the way down the line for the people of Washington State. What are we doing tearing out railroads? So what we've done, we've used their figures. We agree with their figures. It's a $1 billion project if we want to make this 42 miles of railroad truly efficient railroad. Sure it is. We agree with that. But we're spending $500 million a mile on Sound Transit light rail line to the airport, and it ain't running yet. You know, they're going to trot out of some trains here, I guess, this weekend to try and get people to say, hey, you know, it's a coming, it's a coming, it's a coming on down the track. Reminds me of the San Francisco Zephyr in 1973. That young rail fan out there on the platform, he'd heard about these late trains, and he looks down the track and he's jumping up and down, and he says to the conductor, look at the San Francisco Zephyr, it's not a day late. He says, look at that. He says, look at that. He says, that's the train coming down the track, that's my train. The conductor looks at him, he says, no, he says, that's yesterday's train, 23 and a half hours. Your train is 8 hours behind that. We have got to start doing this. So rather than tell you an awful lot about the Eastside Rail Line, because a lot of this is on our webpage, let me tell you what I want you to do. First thing I want you to do when you go home is make sure that if you're a member of King County, you write to your elected representatives and you say, no way should you tear up that rail line. 2 weeks ago, Larry Phillips of the King County Council had a wonderful op-ed in the Seattle Times, and guess what he said? Start over. This is an awful deal. It's awful for the taxpayers, it's awful for our future, start over. Well, we'll see whether or not our legislature or our county or anybody has the courage to start over. But they will listen to you. And as Dave said, write to your elected officials. Be polite, but be firm, but be polite, very polite. Tell them what you want, but tell them in very polite language. Don't tell them you're a member of All Aboard Washington. Don't tell them you're a member of NARC. Don't tell them you're a member of a rail group, any more than I would say I'm a member of the Sierra Club. That kills you. That puts you into a pigeonhole. Oh, it's one of those rail nuts again. You just call them young on the phone. Don't do that. Make sure that Mr. Sims, Mr. Phillips, Julia Patterson, Bob Ferguson, whoever it is on the county council knows what you feel, knows that you don't want this railroad gone. Do the same thing with your elected representatives and legislators. And if we lose this battle, know this: we fought it. We should be proud of ourselves. We fought it. We fought it well. We fought it hard. And even if we don't win it, we will have turned the corner with this organization and with the future of rail passenger service in Washington State, because we're showing these people that we really do know our homework. Or as I said to the King County Puget Sound Regional Council, whatever they call themselves, Corridor Rail Advisory Group, they've got all these terms and all of these things. What I said to them is, you should be having your meetings in Barcelona, Stuttgart, Zurich, Osaka, Tokyo, Beijing, not here. Because here you do not see what they have and we don't have. And we have to turn that corner, start thinking like Europe. So folks, you can be proud of All Aboard Washington. It's a great battle, and I hope you've gotten an idea from me that we are doing everything we can to win. Thank you.